Hi there, and welcome to Unfiltered Solopreneur, the podcast where we share real, unvarnished stories of people who dared to break free from the corporate grind. I'm your host, Nikhil, and I'm passionate about helping solopreneurs like you turn their dreams into reality. What drives someone to reject the traditional path and build a business on their own terms without funding, formulas, or a polished plan? In this episode, we discuss why Tunji Kusimo walked away from traditional employment, the surprising connections you can make on public transit, and his unfiltered critique of modern capitalism, but with private jets and yachts. If you've ever felt misaligned with conventional work culture and dream of building something meaningful on your own terms, this one's for you. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the other side with my reflections. Hello and welcome to a new episode of Unfiltered Solopreneur. I'm Nikhil Vaish, your host. My guest today went from assembling circuit boards to piloting drones and launching a sustainability focused business. A self taught tech rebel and hands on innovator, he forges his own path, proving that sometimes the best way forward is to build it yourself. Tunji, welcome to the show.
Hey man, it's nice to be here and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of go over my story and what I've been doing over the past year.
Well, I'm looking forward to sharing it with our listeners. And I like to dive right in. So I'm gonna start with looking at your journey. Right, you started with assembling PCB assembler, right? As a PCB assembler, then you became a drone technician, and then you launched Rad Tech. And one of the things you talked to me about was that you had a complicated relationship, should I say, with traditional employment. So could you talk a little bit about what was the tipping point for you? When did you decide I need to build something myself?
So I go to Germany, I take some photos. I really love it, but unfortunately after that trip, that's when I started working full time. So like I started college, and then within like the first quarter or two of that, I started working at like a startup company. And that's kind of like where those kind of ideas and projects got sidelined because like I was invested in the jobs that I had and I was interested in learning more about drones and electronics and that kind of thing. So that's kind of where it started and then paused.
Okay. And so tell me when the jumping off point came. When did you finally decide you wanted to go back and do it full time? Or walk us
So
through that journey.
I briefly considered it when I quit my job at Boston Industries in Walpole.
Mm.
It was the first job that I had where like I didn't appreciate how the clients were being treated and I didn't really agree with my manager on a lot of things after I kind of became used to the workflow of like working on medical devices and scientific equipment. I like started to realize that my manager was kind of a limiting factor in terms of the work that I was trying to do. And then
Yeah.
also like there were just certain situations where like for example I set up a microscope in Germany and like the guy was having issues with like his IT department trying to get that system connected to the internet, and I wanted to help them out, but like my boss and like the team in general at Boston Industries is not interested in like doing that sort of work. They're just trying to sell it and move on, so that doesn't really work for me. um and yeah, I ended up quitting there, getting fired, whatever you want to call it. Like I made it pretty clear that I didn't want to work there anymore. And so then after that, I briefly thought about doing my own thing, but I just didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
I spent it all on a Vegas trip right after I quit. So after the Vegas trip, I was like, all right, I should probably find another job. I ended up interviewing at Wellesley College. Very beautiful campus. I love the people in the Science Center. It's such a great team. Um, but yeah, that job was like by far the worst job I've ever had. I started off uh kind of like just not really sure what to do, like what my job was, what where my job started and ended, I guess, because like I've never had, I wouldn't call it a corporate job, but it's like a job in education. It's very different than a job in like a commercial industrial park or whatever, right? Where like you're on a floor with like 20 other technicians and you're all just like doing stuff. um, there I had an office and I was getting paid like 90K a year and like all these things that just didn't seem realistic, like to me. I just didn't understand how the money was being made or like how it was being spent. And so like the first couple months I was just kind of like in my office like chilling, and it was nice, but it was uncomfortable because like I never really had a job where I kind of just sat around and did nothing. And yeah, it was just like it was very uncomfortable. And then as time went on at that job, I started getting into like a lot of I started realizing how the cookie was made with facilities. They're unionized, and like if I need to get something repaired in the building, like the compressor or the vacuum system or whatever, like it just was a nightmare. Honestly said, the previous guy who was in my position, I'm not going to name names, but like he
No.
was the head of um the team in facilities that was maintaining the science department. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you, they didn't do their jobs. The compressor and the vacuum system, both compressors but just hooked up in different ways, um they were always an alarm and they were always malfunctioning. And like there's supposed to be three pumps active at all times, maintained properly, so that if two pumps die, we still have one pump, right? Like redundancy.
Right.
Um, the college is a $4 billion endowment. I don't think that like however much the system costs, like $50,000, $150,000, whatever it is, I don't think that a system like that should be in alarm constantly and constantly having issues. So like to keep it short,
Yep.
I ended up getting to the point where like it was either facilities way or the highway, and I chose the highway. Two birds ended up dying. In the like lobby slash cafeteria area, there was like a burning smell for 2 months. There was just a lot of stuff that was broken or like not working correctly, and facilities just they just dropped. I'm just gonna be honest. They just dropped the ball on the science center. I talked to one of
Hmm.
my coworkers, like previous coworkers recently, and like that compressor is apparently still an alarm. Like I can't validate the truthfulness of that statement, but I mean he was on the same team as me, and he was seeing all the same shit that I was seeing. So like, yeah, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Like how just how, man? Like how
Yep.
do you have so much money, and how do you it's the union, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. Like it's just it's unfortunate because like I really love the faculty there. I really like the student body. Um, but yeah, the facilities department just ruined it for me. And like
So,
after that, after that job, um, I was just like super depressed because like I ended up uh cutting off all my friends because they're of the mindset of like wanting to live in modern society, and I'm of the mindset that like I want to be living in the 1860s or like whenever Abraham Lincoln was president. Like I just can't agree with the way things are being done today in a majority of situations. And I find it really disturbing where some people decide that instead of like spending money on things that benefit the community and like help out like the previous version of you, like they just want to do their own thing and like live quick, like die fast or die young, whatever, like that motto. I don't know, I couldn't do it anymore, so I quit Wellesley College after causing quite a stir there. And I ended up picking up a bunch of like tickets and like points on my license. My license got suspended. My mom and brother ended up moving out of the apartment that we were all living in. And yeah, like for 6 months I was just kind of like in bed, like just not doing anything because I didn't want to be a part of this society. Like I just don't agree with the majority of people. It's just there's a lot of waste, and I feel bad for people like me who care because you can't care. Like if you're a part of the system and you want to just work like a full-time job, like a 9 to 5, you can't care about the quality of your work. You can't care about like how things are done or how the cookie's made, because instead of prioritizing like quality over quantity, in the US we have this image of like we're a great nation and like all that, right? Like no, we're really not a great nation. Like if you think about America and like manufacturing and like all those things, like the things that America was known for and like the things that they revolutionized, what are we doing today? Like genuinely,
Yeah.
what are we doing today? All that there is like things being designed in California, manufactured in China. Like that is the most that you're going to get. I was talking to a guy who owned a biotech company near facility where they were building the commuter rail train cars as well as like the engines. And that was a really interesting conversation because like back in the 90s, like you could be working at this biotech company and like on break you could go outside and just watch Americans building stuff. And like you could see like quality and like you could see that there was effort being put into the things that we were making. I don't see that today.
Right.
That's where I'm
Okay.
at.
So there's a lot to unpack there,
Yeah.
but yeah. So would it be fair to say let's bring it back to sort of the solopreneur world, right? In terms of like starting your own thing. So it sounds like aligning with the values of the company is very important to you, right? And that's been an issue in terms of some why you haven't sort of felt like you fit in there, right? And so that seems to be part of the impetus of starting your own thing, because often people say that if you don't agree with the way things are being done, you've got to go out and do it your own way, right? Show people a better
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. No,
Is that a motivating factor? Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that's definitely a part of it. I think that like after Wellesley College, I couldn't do another tech job, honestly said.
Yeah.
Like I over the summer of that year, I ended up working with like a Harvard InnoLab startup. They're called Halo Braid. And like they kind of revitalized my faith in uh tech, I guess. They're basically building like a hair braiding machine, and like I was working as one of the technicians, and like through that I was working with a team of like very similar minded people. There was only three other people on the team, so like very very small company. And I just liked what they were doing and I liked the way that they were engineering their product, and I fortunately enough was able to advise them on um like a manufacturing process that would really help out with their design. And I ended up making that suggestion. They ended up taking it, running with it, and they're still using it to this day. So I mean, yeah, I if I didn't have that job, I might be in a much worse place right now. Um, but yeah, having that job with them, with Yinka, David at Halo Braid, like that really helped me, honestly. And kind of like restored my faith in tech, restored my faith in like me wanting to like continue to build things and prototype things and whatnot. It changed my view.
Yeah, no, but it's true. I mean, there are companies that will rip people off. You know what I mean in terms of like, but there are what I will tell you, having lived a few more years on the planet, is that there are lots of people who are actually trying to do good, right? Genuinely, not rip
Yeah,
people off, but they see a problem and they want to help people. And actually,
yeah.
I found that with most solopreneurs, that is the ethos that drives them, because they don't care about a corporate paycheck, they don't care about climbing the ladder. They're
Mm.
actually trying to build something that's meaningful and that they're passionate about, and that's usually helping somebody. So there is, and I'm glad that it restored your faith. So that's good.
Yeah, no, it was that really, and then like also I just enjoy companies like Craigslist and it's hard to name things off the top of my head, but like there's a nonprofit TV studio that I found out about today. And
Yeah.
it's just it's crazy, man. Like they have probably over 50,000, maybe even close to $100,000 worth of equipment in their studio. And I just learned today that if you're an Attleboro resident and you want to like produce short films or you want to run a podcast or you want to do like anything, you can use their space for free.
Wow.
And like, yeah, I was like, holy shit, why didn't I hear about this like 5, 10 years ago? Like I've been living in this area for my whole life. Like I wish that I knew about this, right? And
Yeah.
I feel like that's the case with most like good companies is that like they're not trying to put themselves out there, like market themselves, like they just don't want to be in the spotlight. And maybe not true with this like media company, but like I feel like with most smaller companies that aren't interested in like maximizing profits and whatever, like they don't do much marketing or they don't have any social medias, and like they're just in their little corner of Massachusetts, like doing their own thing, and like it works for them, right?
Yeah.
And like it
Yeah.
pays their bills and it makes them feel good. Like they're able to go to work, like work hard for 8 hours, and then come home and feel satisfied about the work that they did.
Yeah. No, true. And we can talk more about that because you had told me something else which I'll come to in terms of something you wanted to do, which we'll
Mm.
tie back to. But I'm curious now in terms of, I guess it'd be fair to say a lot of people in your generation sort of feel the same way, this sort of misalignment, right? Um, so what advice would you give to somebody who sort of feels the same way right now but doesn't yet see another path? Because you sort of found
Um,
your way out of it, right?
my recommendation is don't crash out like I did. I would say try to start being like more honest with yourself and like towards the people around you, and like you'll very quickly find out like who your real friends are and who's just friendly with you, um perhaps in such a way that they're gaining more from the relationship than you are. Um, like all the friends that I cut off last year, like I've been trying to reach out to a couple of them, and like it's very clear to me like they don't want to make amends or anything like that. And I understand, like I was the one who kind of ended it, but at the same time, like I think if you're gonna call yourself an adult, like you need to be able to, I'm not gonna say that they need to forgive and forget, but like that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to reach out to these people and like apologize for what I've done and like be honest about it. Like, yeah, I was a shitty person last year at the beginning of the year, and like I'm sorry for that. Um, whether you wanna like talk about it or anything like that, like I'm open to talking, and like I send these messages out and nobody's replied. Like I have a couple friends from before Wellesley College, but it's only like two or three people. So like just think about that for a second, right? Like I probably had maybe 10 close friends and only two of them, one of them which I hadn't talked to since high school. So really, one out of 10 people still talk to me since before Wellesley College. Like they saw me during that phase of like after Wellesley College when I was just being an asshole to everybody, and they
Yeah.
actually stuck with me, and like we still talk to this day. So like yeah, I mean, first off, figure out who your real friends are, because it's a waste of time to be um maintaining relationships that aren't beneficial to you, right? Like I'm not saying that you should be gaining off of other people and not giving anything back, but the reality of the situation is that if you're a unique person, you're going to find it very hard to find other people who will listen to what you want to say and what you're about without being afraid. Like if you have a vision of the world that is far removed from normal society, and like for example you want to live on a boat, or like you want to live in a tiny house, or like you don't like real estate, like all these things that like normal people just deal with and pretend is okay, um you're going to find it very hard to find people that agree with you and find people that are actually willing to listen and talk to you. Fortunately I'm on this podcast and I get to talk to one other person like that who's open-minded, and hopefully the viewers are able to kind of like understand what I'm saying when I say like it's hard in Massachusetts. Like it's genuinely difficult to speak your mind without like having 20 different people attack you for your ideas. It's bad
Yeah.
here. It's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, I think we've sort of fallen into that habit everywhere, honestly, because you're right. I mean, one of the reasons this show is called Unfiltered Solopreneur is because I felt a need to be much more honest than what is out there in terms of this whole solopreneur journey, right? In fact, that will lead me to my next question because you sort of set it up nicely, which is something else you told me, which is or you say this on your profile, I believe. You said if you build it, they will not come. And that's a myth, right? If you build it, they will come is a myth, is what you have basically said. So tell me a little bit about what's been your biggest misconception of being your own boss now that you are.
You need to come up with a business plan, which I didn't do at first. And then you need to figure out like who your clientele is going to be. Like, are you going to be a niche thing, or are you going to like try to sell to everybody? Um, and then like honing in on like what separates you from the other people in your market, right? Because like if you're a coffee shop and you just sell like mediocre coffee, why is anybody going to show up at your coffee shop? You know what I mean? Unless
Yeah.
like unless there's like some high rise right next to your place and like people just grab it because they need some caffeine, right? What misconceptions did I have? I think that the misconception of like me working like 80-hour weeks every single week and like me not being able to find clients and like not being able to meet the correct people, it's all just wrong. Like if you take the commuter rail, if you ride the subway, you're going to meet some really interesting people. The other day I was on the Green Line from Somerville going back to like downtown Crossing to get groceries, and I just happened to meet a producer. I think it's Clyde Media Group. They do commercials for like corporate events, or sorry, they do commercials for businesses, and then they also cover like corporate events, I think, and that sort of thing. And like I looked at his work and I was like, man, this is the stuff that I was watching when I was a kid, like on the Science Channel and like the History Channel of like shows like How It's Made, or like documentaries about it. Just reminded me of like that kind of camera work. And I'm gonna have a coffee with him on Saturday, and like I would have never met somebody like that if I was working a full-time job. You don't meet people like that when you're working a full-time job, because you only see the people that you work with and your friends. You don't want to see anybody when you're trying to get groceries, because like you're sick of your fucking job and like you're just trying to get from A to B. You don't want to deal with people. You've been stuck in traffic for the last 2 hours, and the guy that's sitting across from you or like waiting in line at the cash register, like he might be an interesting guy, but you're socially drained. You don't want to spend the extra 30 minutes to an hour shooting the shit with this guy that like could be a very interesting connection, but like you just don't have the energy, right? So like I think that's kind of where I stand in terms of like misconceptions. I think that you're going to live a much happier life. You might not be rich. I don't think that you should be an entrepreneur if you want to be rich. I don't think that you should be a part of the society if your goal is to maximize profit. I think that you should be doing it for the art and like the sport of kind of like bettering yourself and improving your product, improving your technique. And then also like networking with people and like meeting new people, meeting new, not meeting new, but like, learning about like new ways of doing things. Like you need to have an open mind. You need to consider all the possibilities. And I think that if you're in Providence or if you're in Boston, I mean, I live in Attleboro and I still come out to Providence and Boston just to do jobs and whatever. I meet the most interesting people in Boston and Providence because like this is where the money is. Fortunately or unfortunately, like people spend money in Boston and Providence. So like if you're looking to meet new people and you're looking to network, like just start taking freelance jobs, like, and use the commuter rail, use public transit. Just try to talk to like one person a day. Like just take it slow, you know? If you have social anxiety or anything like that, like don't force yourself to have conversations with people, but just like sit in a coffee shop and like just listen to the like don't like steal people's ideas and like rip off like the conversations that people are having, but like just go to a coffee shop, like kind of try to feel the vibe, like understand the environment that you're in, and like see if there are people in there who think the same way as you do, and like maybe just jump in on the conversation. So like get out there really is
Yeah.
all I have to say. Like there are a lot of misconceptions about everything. And the reality is that if you're not willing to go boots on the ground and get that information like from the source, then you probably shouldn't be doing this. Like if you don't have the energy or if you don't have the drive to like get out there and like find out things for yourself, I don't think that being a solopreneur is for you. But like if that's something that you like doing, if you don't like going with the flow, if you want to like get out there and like really explore the world and the community around you, I think that it's the perfect kind of thing to do. Like yeah, you're going to struggle financially, It's a reality of the situation. And that's why I would recommend that, like, before you quit your job or before you crash out, like, hopefully you have, I mean, don't crash out because you'll waste the money, but like save up $20,000, $40,000, or like if you already have a business idea, like save up enough to run that business for like 10 months without any income.
Yeah.
And then you'll be set to like actually start your idea and like get it off the ground, and like, and that's including the cost of like getting the place, like signing a lease and all that. Like you need to already buy all the things that you need and then have 10 months of savings in order to keep that business running, right? Like I
Yeah.
basically started with nothing because I sat around on my ass for 6 months and like my savings account dried up. Like, and unfortunately, I cannot get a job right now because my background check comes up as not clean. So like, yeah, I interviewed at like 5 different places, and there was one job where I could have been making like $130,000 a year. I would have just stayed there for like 6 months, a year, and then quit. Like that was the goal, was to like just make a little bit of startup cash, because I don't really want to find investors. I don't want to deal with any of that. Like I just want to be able to take the idea from vision to reality myself. I don't want to have
Yeah.
to deal with the nitpicking and like the nickel and diming and like all the bullshit that investors bring to a business. I just, if anything, I heard of this thing called angel investors. Like that's something that I would
Mhm.
appreciate. If somebody like saw my idea and wanted to buy like half of my company or like idea or whatever I'm trying to do, like I would appreciate that. And like they're hands off. Like they don't touch it until there's something worth pulling out on, or if there's something worth working on with me. I don't
Yeah.
want there to be expectations that the money is going to be returned to them in full by the next quarter. Like, I'm not trying to build a profitable business. I'm trying to build a business that I can be proud of.
Yeah, again, a lot to unpack. So I'll just say the critiques of capitalism we'll have to save for another podcast because that's not what this podcast is about. But
Mm,
I think what is interesting to me is one of the things I like about solopreneurship is I see it very different from traditional entrepreneurship, right?
mm.
Because solopreneurs are not looking to build. They're not looking for VC money. They're not looking for growth capital. Most of them don't even want employees. They don't want to become
Yeah.
unicorn. That's not their goal. They're not looking to buy yachts and private islands, right? All the solopreneurs I know are basically saying, I want to get rid of the corporate master, the corporate paycheck, the shackles that come with corporations today.
I mean,
And I
I'm not
want
gonna
a
lie.
consistent
I
revenue stream. Yeah.
Do you mind if I just interject really quickly? So like I hate driving, and like I'm partially considering just not getting my license back, like re-registering my vehicles, but like have somebody else drive them for me. I do really want to get a yacht and like private jet. Like if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I would love to get my own like commercial pilot license, and then like at some point like I could just do flights like maybe once a month or like a couple times a year and like just live off that. Like I honestly do not care about making money. Like if I could just have the things that I want to have, like I love machinery. I love like I owned a Scania crane truck. Like I currently own a F-250 utility bed. Do I have any reason for owning these things? No. I just think that they're cool, and I like collecting random garbage. So like, not to say that like you shouldn't want like luxurious items. I kind of think the opposite. I think that if you can do that, like if you can somehow manage to be a solopreneur and still have the yacht and still have the private jet and like have your $6 million apartment in the heart of Boston, like that's all awesome stuff. Like I don't disagree with that. Like live your life the
Yeah.
way you want to live it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I just
Let, it,
I'll let you
we
go
went
back to
out.
what you were saying, but like I
Yeah.
just
We
wanted to
were
interject and say like I don't mind luxurious things. I don't mind like spending money to
that,
spend money. I just think it
that
should be done for yourself.
That's fine. No, no. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about building sort of like entrepreneurs. The traditional entrepreneur has a very different goal, right? They want to become unicorns. They want the company to be like world dominating and be like the
Yeah,
only.
yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Solopreneurship doesn't mean you have to be poor and live on the street. But it basically means you're building your company around your life, not the other way around, right? Your
Yeah,
life doesn't
yeah.
revolve around your company. That's the difference. Your family comes first, your friends come first, and you can certainly make a shitload of money and still buy a yacht. No one's saying you can't do that. but the motivations are different, is what I'm saying, in terms of solopreneurship and the traditional entrepreneur, at least from what I've seen in all the conversations I've had.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so yeah, so let me bring this back a little bit. So the other thing you mentioned to me, which is kind of interesting, is that
Mm.
you mentioned wanting to do video essays on animated movies, right? That could help younger people who lack support. So talk to me a little bit about that passion and also how that fits into your broader goals for Rad Tech.
So basically, as a kid, I was also weird. Like, it's not like my weirdness just came up out of nowhere and like I left college and I was all of a sudden a weird person that didn't like society. From the beginning, I was different than other kids, right? Like, I was really into like model trains, which is like kind of a retired man's hobby. And like, I was really into like RC cars and like all these things that like kids just didn't really understand, right? And so, like, I would just like to show kids that have a similar mindset to me that like they're not weird. They're just not understood.
Mhm.
And like through the lens of like an animated movie, I want to kind of like pull in and like probably the animated movies that I watched as a kid, I don't know if like kids are watching those things today, like Surf's Up and How to Train Your Dragon and like all that kind of stuff. Like I'm a weird person for still liking like children's movies and like stuff like that, right? Like nobody watches like early animated films from like the 2000s and whatever. Like nobody's actively doing that and talking about that on the internet except for like weirdos, right? So like I want to make weird videos for weird people and like show them that hey, you know, this isn't really that weird. It's just we're not an understood like group of people. And like I watched Surf's Up recently and I think that uh, everything about Surf's Up is just kind of like perfect. Like the production, the team behind it, the budget that they had, the story behind it, the characters that they developed, the whole idea of like just this penguin that's like a teenager, right? Or whatever. And like their dream is to be like Big Z. And Big Z is like this adult that is like the model surfer and like he's the guy that every kid wants to be and whatever, right?
Yeah.
But throughout the story, you learn about like how he died. I mean, spoilers, it's a 20-year-old movie. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling this for you, but like um Big Z faked his death. He was still alive. The main character, the teenager Cody, ends up finding him on like this random beach and like they slowly start bonding. Cody still is like in the mindset of like wanting to win the competition. They end up breaking up for a little bit because like Big Z isn't about that kind of life anymore. Like he's the kind of person who was surfing for the art and like the passion of surfing. And like Cody is still in the mindset of like, no, I gotta be like everybody else. I gotta like meet everybody else's expectations. I gotta meet my parents' expectations. I gotta meet my friends' expectations. I gotta meet society's expectations. And like the reality of the situation is that like, no, these are all made up things. Like these are all just things that people decided one day. And you don't have to do the same thing as all these other people. You can forge your own path. And
Mhm.
throughout the competition, like you see Chicken Joe, which is like the friend that Cody makes when he gets on the whale to go to whatever the island is called. I did watch it recently, but like I don't remember every single name and every single setting. But like yeah, throughout the competition, like it comes down to the anti-hero slash villain, Tank Evans, and then Cody and Chicken Joe. And like at the very end, they end up in like this precarious situation. Cody has to choose between winning the competition or saving his friend. He saves his friend, he sacrifices himself. Uh Tank Evans ends up being the loser in the end. Big Z comes back to the island. There's like the super corporate beaver that has like a toupee or whatever, and like he's the image of like I find his character so funny. He's like the image of like the ideal capitalist. Like it doesn't matter how we're making the money as long as the money is being made. So like
Yeah.
he is literally that. And like by the end of the movie, like Big Z comes back to the island and like all his old fans are there, like all grown up. The movie is simply beautiful. If you like animated movies and you're not like afraid to be seen as a child for watching them, watch Surf's Up. Get it on Blu-ray, get a Blu-ray player, get a 7.1 channel receiver, set up 5.1 speakers around your room so that you can experience it the way that it was meant to be experienced. Like the team behind that project put a lot of effort into the story, the characters, the sport of surfing. If you buy the Blu-ray, you will have the behind the scenes tracks and you'll be able to see like what their vision was, and they explain and they go through like how they shot the movie. Or it's CGI, but like no, how they shot the movie. It's still the same thing. Like, regardless of whether it's CGI or if it's real life, like, there's still a director of photography. There's still, like, these things that you need in real cinema. And so, like, it's just everything was beautiful about that
Yeah.
project. The people,
Yeah.
the CGI, the just everything was perfect. And, like, I just want to show people that, like, yeah, this might be something that was aimed towards children, but there were real adults behind this project that are mature and understand mature themes and understand the current state of the world, right? And so like I want to make video essays about these movies that are kind of like sidelined and not really talked about today, and just show people like, no, you're wrong. Like this isn't a kids movie. This is a movie that was directed by a team of people that are worth millions of dollars, and like they have a vision and they perfected that vision and executed it with no error. Like I don't see anything wrong with that movie personally. I don't think they made any mistakes as far as the CGI goes. It's still a beautiful movie today, even like 15, 20 years later, however old it is. Like yeah, it's just a perfect example.
Yeah, I got to tell you though, I love toy trains, model trains. I still love my action figures, and I love
It
animated
totally is a
films.
retired man's hobby though, because like you need money in order to get like the good models, right? Like
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, but in terms of the idea of it, yes. I mean, and also in New York, you don't have space, so that's the other problem. Most of
yeah.
my collections are now in a warehouse somewhere, which my wife made me put away because we have no room here. So, but that's not weird, and I think being yourself is not a bad thing, right? I mean, as you grow older, you sort of realize that you're not living your life for anybody else but you. So you have to
Mhm.
be true to yourself. As long as you're not hurting anyone or harming anyone else or yourself, then you're good.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's the main thing is that like, be mindful of others. Like be yourself, but like understand the impact of your actions on others, because like
yeah.
there's no such thing as like creating energy from nothing, right? Like just thinking about science, you cannot like produce uh atoms from nothing. Like you need to already have all the building parts in order to make something, and like you need to take in order to give, or you need to take in order to like receive, if you understand what I'm saying. Like your
Yeah.
enjoyment is coming at the expense of somebody else. Whether that's at the expense of their enjoyment or at the expense of something else is like for you to understand. But understand your impact on others and like figure out whether it's justified. And like I think that that's the only case in which you should be considering society is your impact on society and whether you are a net positive or a net negative, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And so I mean, it'd be fair to say you have a complicated relationship with capitalism, right? Because you want the
yeah.
yacht and the plane, but you don't want to get it the way that traditionally you have to get it. So let me
Yeah,
ask you
no,
then.
I want
Yeah.
to be a masochist about it for some reason.
Yeah.
And while it's very painful, I don't want to do it the other way. Like,
Right.
so yeah.
Well, Rad Tech will help you do it another way, right? And I love the idea of the animated shorts, right? The essays. I think there are
Mhm.
lots of people who enjoy things that are not weird. Just because everybody doesn't enjoy them doesn't mean it's a weird thing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you now: if we were to meet again 5 years from now, where do you want to be?
Um, In 5 years from now, I'm honestly hoping I'm close to retirement. By the time I'm 30, I would like to have multiple locations around the US with like 40-foot containers. Yeah, like that's where I'd want to be in 5 years, is like I would like to have a plane. I would like to have a bunch of different places around the US where like there's a local airport, like I don't know, a bike ride away or something like that. And so if I get sick of dealing with assholes in Massachusetts, I can fly out to like Nova Scotia or and like they don't have to be in the US, but like the idea would be to do that initially in the US because like I am a citizen here and I understand GIS systems in this country very well. Um so like yeah, if I wanted to go to Vegas, like I could fly over to Vegas, or like if I wanted to go to Florida and like I'm getting sick of like the northern climate, like I could go to Florida. And then like I don't like the Northeast. There's ticks here, there's shitty weather. It still gets reasonably hot. Like it sucks. My hands are like falling apart from the cold weather. Like I don't like the Northeast. The only reason that you want to live in the Northeast is for the biotech companies and the money. And other than that, I don't really understand why you're here. So yeah, I would like to be able to choose where I want to be any given day of the week or any given week of the month, and like just be able to choose, have the luxury to choose what I want to do at any given time. Like that's what I want to be doing when I'm 30. I want to be doing what I want to do, and like just making enough to like continue the philanthropy that I want to do and like help out people, as well as like just enjoy life. Like I am not interested in squeezing every last penny out of my clients. I'm not interested in I'm not interested in corporate at all. I'm just not interested in the way things are right now. I want to return to the way that it looks in books of the 1960s or the 1860s, and like I want to go back to a society where like people were individuals, and like this idea of like needing to have a full-time job and like all this garbage like wasn't a thing. Like I want to go back to a time where like farmers were like being a farmer wasn't a bad career path in the US. Like that's where
Yeah.
I want to be. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to be doing in the next 5 years, is like kind of removing myself from capitalism and doing my own little thing in my corner of the society.
Except for the yacht and the plane, right? And the parcels of land.
No, the yacht and the plane is like a personal thing. Like I need to have a Scania truck. I need to have like some kind of 18 wheeler like that. I need to have like some boat. I need to have some plane. Like those are the three things that I need to have in order to justify living in the US.
In the
Other
US.
than that, like I'm moving to Europe. Like there's no reason for me to be in America if I don't have those, like if I can't be American and have my like my fossil fuel burning items, right? Like so
Happiness.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to our rapid fire round. So I'm just going to throw some questions at you and just give us what comes to your mind. What's a
Yeah, sure.
common piece of business advice that you completely disagree with?
Um That one's hard because like I there are things that I disagree with, but there are very few things that I completely disagree with.
So you want to do another
So
one?
I
Yeah.
oh, let me think about it for a second. I think that like one of the things that I disagree with is like choosing to be a manager that micromanages. I think that as a manager, you need to understand that you aren't the smartest person in the room, and the reason why you're there isn't to be the smartest person in the room. Um I think that that's something that's completely wrong, is that like there's a lot of managers that aren't professionally trained and don't really understand business. You know, they don't have a master's. I mean, even if you have a master's degree, you can still be arrogant, right? So like, yeah, I think that there's a lot of managers in this country that don't really understand what it is to be a manager.
Okay. If you had a billboard in Times Square for just 24 hours to promote your philosophy, not your business, what would it say?
Having this graffiti looking banner or like a billboard up and like making it extremely obnoxious. Like I would love to do that in Times Square. I would love to put up like the Rad Tech logo or like just the text and say something stupid like capitalism and then Rad Tech. Like just that, honestly, that would be pretty funny, I think that, it would make a lot of people angry and it would probably make a couple people laugh. So,
And a lot of people go check out what radtech.com is. So it
yeah,
might
and I'm
work.
sure I would get tons of comments on my YouTube saying like, "Oh, this guy's a communist," and like I would just find that stuff hilarious.
All right. If radtech was a person, how would you describe their personality?
Um, Perhaps aloof. Um, but like when it comes down to it, like can turn around, like can pivot on a dime. I think that this person would be extremely easygoing until there's a reason to be angry, and then make it very clear that they're angry.
Okay. What's a common misconception about sustainability in tech that drives you crazy?
Yeah, battery electric vehicles, huge misconception about like green tech. A lot of people don't really understand how those are supposed to be used. Greenwashing is a huge thing. Corporations pretend to be like really friendly and whatnot, but like they only spend like 5% or less on like sustainability, and they're nowhere close to being net neutral. And like they keep pushing back their targets for being net neutral, and like it's never going to actually happen. They just want to pretend like it's going to happen and profit off of that, right? Like profit, 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 profit. So
Yeah.
that's another huge misconception. I'm just gonna stop there because
Yeah.
I could go
That's
on
good.
for hours.
What's a skill you developed in early childhood that unexpectedly helps you in your business?
Going back to the RC cars, I got my first RC car when I was like maybe 13, 14, and like that taught me about soldering and that sort of thing. In high school, I ended up getting a before high school, actually. I think in middle school, I got an RC plane and similar kind of thing. And then in high school, I was making enough money to build my own racing drone. And so like that taught me about like writing firmware and soldering and all that. And like, hey, you know what? I kind of soldered one of these motors a little shitty. So when there was a lot of current passing through those wires, it ended up desoldering itself because resistance and power and heat, right? Like there's a correlation between those three things. So yeah, just learning about electronics and software and like physically building those things and understanding how they work was like a huge thing in my childhood. I don't think I'd be where I am today if I didn't have a mom who was supporting of those hobbies and like bought a lot of that stuff for me when I was 14. So like yeah, I think that was huge.
Yeah, that's great. And it's also a great note to end our show on. So, Tunji, it's been great fun talking to you and an interesting roller coaster on capitalism. And I almost feel like we need to have a second show with a roundtable of your generation to dig into that a little more. But thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to give like a little closing statement. I really love what you're doing, and I'm really glad that I got to be here. I don't think that I don't think that there are enough people doing podcasts like this, just talking to like actual real people, like people who aren't normally on podcasts. I think that it's interesting that you are trying to kind of like put a lens on the reality of society and like who's really in it and like the people who are actually boots on the ground, like trying to figure out their own thing. I think that's really cool. I can't personally, I don't care for celebrities. I can barely name like three of them. I don't think that it's worth following people who don't understand the reality or hardship of being a normal person. And like, yes, they were normal people at one point, but like it's very clear that they didn't want to continue being a normal person, right? So like, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. I think that what you're doing is really cool, and I would love to see more and potentially even come back. And maybe I become the famous person who doesn't understand normal people and like I become the arrogant asshole. You know, maybe it'll be full circle. You'll be able
I
to go
know.
back and like see my transformation from like a base person to an asshole or a masshole or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, so yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll keep in touch and see where you get to in your before you when you turn 30. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
all right. Take care.
Yeah, you too, man.
Tunji's story is an unfiltered lens into solopreneurship, raw, honest, and at times refreshingly contradictory. He didn't begin with a business plan or seed money. He began with frustration and a drive to build something that was aligned with his values. Here are my key takeaways. You don't need permission to build. Tunji didn't have a runway, a pitch deck, or a polished brand. What he had was dissatisfaction and a decision. Solopreneurs, action comes before clarity. Start where you are and let the purpose sharpen through motion. The system isn't broken, it was built that way. One of Tunji's most honest realizations was that he simply wasn't built to conform to environments that prioritize control over quality and profit over purpose. He didn't want to play that game. He wanted to build something he could be proud of. Remember, success isn't just income, it's alignment. Define what fulfillment looks like for you. If you build it, they will come is a myth. As you've heard me say before, visibility doesn't just happen because you exist. Tunji learned to connect, show up in the real world, talk to strangers, and build relationships offline, not just online. Get out of the algorithm and into the real world. Your next opportunity might be on a train, not in your feed. Weird is a signal, not a flaw. From loving RC cars and model trains to making video essays about animated movies, Tunji embraced what others might write off as weird. In reality, that's what sets him apart. Your quirks aren't liabilities, they're signals. Embrace them, that's your niche talking. Whether you agree with all of Tunji's takes or not, his journey reminds us solopreneurship isn't just about building a business. It's about designing a life that aligns with your values, your energy, and your vision. Thanks for listening to Unfiltered Solopreneur. If you got value from today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a solopreneur who needs this message. Until next time, keep breaking free from the corporate grind, and remember, your story is your most powerful asset. Live solo or die corporate.